This is Beethoven's Seventh Symphony, second movement, A major. An orchestra, combination of instrumentalists ranging from brass to strings to woodwinds. To a single violinist. Each person as important as the last, from the conductor to the noble triangle, without any of which the music would cease to be. Now, here's a little bit of a different way of visualizing this music by representing the bass, tenor, alto, and soprano on this horizontal plane. Now if we can jump ahead just a little bit further, we delve deeper down the rabbit hole. Notice the ebb and flow. It's a dance, and the instruments are the dancers. And what's this? A thundering climax, made only possible if each gear of this machine is firing on all cylinders. This musical machine. I present to you a lesson in listening through the anatomy of electronic music. Now, this is my orchestra, and these are my instruments. Notice each column here on this grid represents a different instrument in an electronic piece. So what I'd like to do here is unveil them one at a time so you can hear them individually and as a whole. So let's get moving. Leaves. Simple stomping of leaves in time. Now notice the pattern here. It's actually a very simple little beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now adding an instrument here, the flicking of the basses. Now this particular instrument is a little bit more syncopated, and it has to be in order to establish the foundations of the rhythm. Now when I talk about syncopation, you've probably heard this term thrown around quite often in jazz music, but syncopation is everywhere, and what it essentially means is a beat that's sort of off the normal beat. Adding another instrument here is flicking of the fire pit. So what this does is create sort of a question and answer between the fire pit and the glass vases, and works a little more to establish that sort of texture. And if you were to listen to a symphony or any piece of music, you would likely hear ideas introduced slowly from the beginning to give the listener time to really start to absorb instruments as they come. Flicking of the dish now. Thank you, Kim, by the way, for helping with the recording process. You know, by recording the samples myself, what I'm trying to do is to achieve a more organic or true-to-life sound. You know, not all electronic music has to be drum machines and robots. You know, there is something mechanical happening here, that's true. But I feel there's something very human to it as well. If you listen, you can still pick out the various sounds, and they're starting to tell a story now when you start to put them together. Now, as you listen to the altered beeps of the alarm system, you start to hear the very foundations of the melody, and this is the actual chord progression. Now, when I mention a chord progression, it works to establish the actual mood behind a piece of music. You may have heard major chords in, say, the instance of Beethoven's Ode to Joy, or perhaps minor chords in the case of Mozart's Lacrimosa or his Requiem. Chord progressions are everywhere, but they do work to establish that tone. And this piece uses mostly major chords, so it has more of an upbeat, uplifted sort of sound to it. Now, if you still listen, you can pick out the various instruments, from the gas tank to the alarm beeps, to the dish flick, to the fire pit, to the glass vases, to the door slam. Now this is our kick drum, and what this does is It gives us that feeling of solidarity when you listen to music. Now, for some of your favorite songs, you might be able to point out those climactic moments where you get that release or that breath of fresh air. And we're deep into the song now. We have the melody. And melody is so very important because it gives the listener something to latch onto and bond with. If you heard this song a couple of times, there would be something there that you could hum along with or whistle to, or perhaps even sing along with. And if you really bond with a piece of music, it's almost as if you're singing along with a close friend. So let's add another instrument. So there's the bass line. And what a composer or a producer is trying to do is to really just balance out that spectrum of sound. If a song is missing that low end or has too much low end and nothing happening in the high end, a song can have the risk of sounding vacant and empty. So indeed, just like with a symphony, you have to have that balance. So what we have here is essentially a pretty simple little song. We have the rhythm, we have the bass, we have the melody, we have the chord progression. So what this is essentially a canvas for you to examine your own listening process. I want you to ask yourself, how do I listen to music? You know, what kinds of thoughts do I have when I'm listening to a song for the first time? So now I'd like to just take the visuals off for a moment, because when you're looking at something, your ears can get distracted because your brain can only process so much at a time. So let's take a moment and just listen. Through the crunching of the leaves, hear the clinks of the basses just tucked into the sound. Music is the sum of its parts. When music is firing on all cylinders and all instrumentalists are in their right place, there's sort of an energy that is created. There's a life force. There's a symmetry. There's a universal language of light and love that has the ability to take a listener to some place they've never been before. And that, my friends, is the power of music. And that's the power of listening. Because music is everywhere. Music is in every car horn. Music is in every dog bark. Music is in every I love you from your best friend. Music is in every baby's cry. It's deep within nearly every film, and it's behind nearly every television commercial. Music elevates the world. And so I challenge you guys to, on your way home today, throw a CD in your car or turn on the radio. And even if you've heard that song 1,000 times before, I want you to truly listen to it and value each and every detail. Never stop listening. Never stop listening. You'll be surprised at what you hear. So I've compiled a playlist that's available at the TEDxKatuah website. It's a combination of music that I've produced as well as music that I just personally get inspiration from. So I invite you to visit TEDxKatuah.com, click on the Multimedia Goodies tab, and download the playlist. And just enjoy the act of listening. It's a beautiful gift, and I thank you for your time. Thank you.